On the right button. Okay. All right, so we're going to kick off the Veterans Edition anthology. And I wanted, well, first we have two repeating authors to share what their experience is like becoming a published author and what that looks like. And then I want to highlight Kathy in regards to all of the work that she has done to put into the Deconstructing Grit collection to bring it to fruition. So this is the first time Deconstructing Grit will actually have its own vertical in regards to highlighting a specific industry. So this will be the first that highlights just veterans, because essentially before, all of the concept was just on the topic of growth, resilience, attention, tenacity. And the whole pull for that was because there hasn't really been a space to highlight women that are having grit. And if you think of anybody that has to have grit, a woman in the military comes to mind. And in every one of the presentations I talk about in grit, I talk about how someone who has studied the grit scores, it's more of an indicator that they'll graduate from West Point if they have a higher scale of grit. So I'm assuming, and I don't know firsthand because I've never been in the military, but I have a personal tie just because of the fact that my family was the first ones to actually start a foundation called Ticket for the Troops, and they raised millions of tickets to actually donate to families that had spouses and children that were active duty in the military to give them the experience of going to the ball game. So that's something that I have a personal tie to. But and then I dated someone that was in the military for 5 years, and I supported him while he went to Djibouti, Africa, and Kuwait and Iraq, and he was a Navy corpsman. But anyway, so this is just my personal tie in regards to family, and I'm really excited to highlight women that have been in the military or have had spouses in the military, or who are mothers with folks that have been in the military or retired in the military. So anyway, with that being said, I'd like to pass it to Kathy so she can tell you more about what its experience looks like from helping publish your book and what all those support services look like.
Well, when people say, a lot of times people will say, what's an anthology? And and the fun part is, and I know, Jennifer, you love research too. When I started looking around, like, where does this word come from? It's a Greek word that actually means a bouquet of flowers. And what I love about that is because as we bring these women together into these books, and I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's just a bouquet of women, each sharing their own essence, their own, special flowerness, as you may call it. And every now and then we'll get someone that'll say, well, what do I have to say that anybody wants to hear? Or I've never written a chapter before. How am I going to do this? And the amazing part of this is that we have so many checkpoints along the way, and you get to meet your writing coach and work with your own writing coach. We have one writing coach per every book, and that person gets to know you and you get to know them. And I've heard so often how many friendships have been developed with that writing coach, and people now specifically ask for certain writing coaches because of the anthologies. But being able to just know that you're going to have someone metaphorically hold your hand as we go through that process and get you from the point of who wants to hear what I have to say to, oh my gosh, I actually finished my chapter and I can't wait for someone to read it. And that's what we do, is we help you through that process.
And in addition, she provides marketing, writing coach, legal, the whole package. So each individual author gets to own their own chapter, which means that they get to step into becoming a published author, have that on their resume for the rest of their life. And my goal is to always make these international bestsellers. So Kathy and I partner with another lady that I always hire to help us with the PR and the promotions with that aspect. And so far, 5 for 5 are all international bestsellers. So I would hope to have the same success with this one as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very strategic in regards to making sure the right people are in the right seats. So I hand select all the authors that are in my books. And a lot of the recommendations come from those that have been in these books, which then leads me to Elsmeralda and Rachel. So if you'd like to share what your experience has been like in regards to participating in the Deconstructing Grit collection and becoming a published author, I'd love for you to share.
Sure. Esmeralda, do you want to? Well,
You're welcome to go. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I am in the I of grit, so intention. And one of my I have a lot of bucket lists and my goal setting for my entire life, but one of them was to be a published author. I'd been published on websites in newspapers, magazines, and other things, but I wanted a hard copy. I usually have it sitting right here. Here it is. I wanted to put my hands on a hard copy because I really love to have the book in my hand, be able to read it and then sign it and then give it to someone. That's what I was looking for. And then Jen gave me that opportunity, and I, of course, said yes very quickly. And it's been a wonderful experience. The things that have happened because of my involvement with the books, talking about, Kathy, the bouquet of flowers that you're surrounded by. I am so happy that Jen reached out and has given me another space to meet amazing women. And I'm just getting emotional about it because it's a year now since we've really started to launch Intention. And it's just been incredible to see Jen rise and all the other women come along on this platform. So just very impressed and happy to be a part of it and thankful.
Thank you, Rachel. And I forgot to mention some of the things that I personally do is when people decide to participate in my books, I intentionally make sure I wrap around them and help with their personal PR branding. So I provide them with opportunities to be a thought leader in regards to being a speaker at one of my G.R.I.T community events, giving them an opportunity to share their story on my YouTube station and interview them in a really cool interview experience. And they have an opportunity to convert their chapter into Audible. So if your audience isn't able to read your chapter with words, you also have it accessible for an audio version too. But that's what I love to do. I love to highlight women. I love to bring them together. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to meet, obviously, and build your community virtually, but then I also host in-person events too.
And I've been impacted by all those as well, Jen. It's so hard to, put it on a package and sell it. But yes, all of those things, you've helped me build my business in the last year. I had advertising, speaking opportunities. My business I actually had to move into the LLC space because it started to move very quickly. So a lot of that I attribute to G.R.I.T and the intention, being intentional, the intention chapter. So thanks, Jen.
All right, I'll go ahead and go. I was one of those, Kathy, that I was like, who wants to hear my story, or what kind of story would matter or would make a difference in people's lives? Gabriella had told me about G.R.I.T and she kept telling me, and then finally I met with Jennifer, and she and I had maybe a 20-minute phone call, and she's like, well, just tell me about yourself. And we started talking. She's like, well, you can write about that. You can write about that. You can write about that. So just about every story that I was telling her, she was saying, you can write about that. And I had the privilege of being in the Tenacity book, the last G.R.I.T from the G.R.I.T series. So it's growth, resilience, intention, and tenacity. And I was in the last one. And with tenacity, I was able to write a story about tenacity. My chapter is called Tenacity in Adversity. And it has resonated with a lot of people. And, all honor to God, because that was one of the things that I told Jennifer, okay, well, I'll do two things. If I can do these two things, then I will jump in and write my chapter. And I said, I will pray about it. And I said, and number two, my faith has to shine through my chapter, because it has been my faith that has sustained me. And that's why I'm here, because of my faith. And she's like, yep, you got it. It's going to be about you. It's going to be about, whatever you want for it to be. And so she gave me that permission to be authentic, because authenticity has to be throughout your writing. If we cannot be who we are internally and externally, then you're not being tenacious. And so I wanted to make sure that my faith resonated, because it resonates with me, and I was hoping that it would resonate with others, and it did. And so I want to just say, if you are considering writing a book, if you ever love to write, I know when I was younger, I would write poems, I would write stories. I loved writing. And then now I'm in higher education, so I do a lot of writing, not necessarily for books and things, but now I consider them an international bestseller. And not that was really not in my bucket list. It was not something that I wanted to do. I had always thought, I'm going to write a children's book. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do, because I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher, so I wanted to write about children. But now I've written about my little story, and it has made an impact. And so when I felt that we should do something with women veterans. I told Jennifer, I said, we have to have a women veteran edition. We have to have it. And I'm glad that she had also been thinking about that. And here we are. So I'm excited that all my friends who have heard the message some of them are joining, but others will be able to see it through the video. So thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Kathy, for allowing us to come together and hear the women voices because they need to be heard. Thank you.
Well, I was really excited, and your passion obviously set that off to be like, this is the next one where we're just going to go industry specific. But I think more importantly, it's incredible because this is a way for you to share your legacy with your world, with your family, and with those that are struggling behind closed doors. That's usually the main intent. So I can't wait to see the stories that come out from this, because I just know personally, I remember one of my friends, she was having her first child and her husband was deployed, and they're both in active duty in the Navy together. And it's like, those are hard stories. And I don't think so many that aren't that involved with the military truly understand the sacrifice that you guys give for our country. So I love, and I feel like it's such a privilege to be able to showcase these stories. And this is the first one. So I'm very excited. So now I'm going to open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions, or Kathy, is there anything else you would like to add? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something real quick. I think it was something each of you have said is one of the authors, I think she was in Growth. And I think Growth was I know it was either her 4th or 5th anthology of ours that she's been in. And I have a quote from her during the pandemic where she's talking about that's how she kept her business going. It's such an amazing community and she's in the financial services industry. So she said, especially during the pandemic, she would just reach out to each and every author and create what she called her coffee break. And she would sit and they'd get to know each other. They'd be friends. And pretty soon they're referral partners. And pretty soon they're having more than one Zoom call. And it doesn't matter if they live in the same community, because sometimes she lives on the East Coast and sometimes she lives here in St. Louis. And she said, Kathy, that's how I kept my business going, was I just made sure that I got to meet everybody, let them know I was here and available. And pretty soon she started getting referrals consistently. And she said, now that's what she does. She sees a new anthology that's coming out of one of our sponsors, jumps in it like she did with Growth. And she said, that's the way I grow my business now. So it's pretty amazing that you can create these connections with people that you really don't know, but you have a lot in common with already. And whether you're working for someone else or working for yourself, it's a great way to just grow that community of other flowers in your bouquet.
Esmeralda, when I heard that, it reminded me of your presentation that you gave for Grit Community about the flowers. I just thought that was cool. It's like a full circle moment. But if anybody has any questions, now would be the time.
Hi, ladies. I just have a quick question. So is this offered to veterans in the St. Louis area, or is this open to a greater audience?
It's open to all. Just really want to focus on women. So yeah. And the tie could either be, they could be active duty, retired, have some sort of relationship with military. It could have been a grandpa, as long as there's a story. Like when I think of Ree, she talks about actually her dad being I think he was in the Marines, and how that was impactful for her. So these stories are really just to talk about how you've had a tie to the military and what that looks like, and sharing those stories. So, and it's called Operation Grit is what we've decided. So
Sounds awesome.
One of the questions that one of the she's still active duty, she asked me, would the topic of military sexual trauma be too much for a book like this? And I did not ask Jennifer or Kathy, but I immediately said no. No, it would not be too much, because this is what happens in the military. People will be writing about PTSD. People may be writing about military sexual trauma, about rape, any of those things. And we will also have positive stories of leadership. And that's what we want. We want to take how this story impacted your life, what you did to come out on the other side, because they're still living, they're still moving, they're still putting one foot in front of the other. So what helped you move forward? What part of grit, what part of resilience, what part of intention, what part of growth did you have? What did you have that growth mindset? What led you to this moment in time that helped you succeed? Because obviously they didn't stay in that stage. They have moved forward. So how did you move forward? And that's what we want for people to share.
And
Absolutely. It's the good, bad,
yeah.
it's the ugly, it's all the things. And I'm embracing of all of those stories because I think that's real life, right? If that's a story that you want to share and that's the message that you want to put out to the world, that is what is meant to be. And I would say an exercise that you can do to see if you're on the right track, if it's the right story, is if you have three different stories that are in your head, start to journal about it and see which one you really pour it into. And if you're really pouring into one, that's your sign. That's the sign that that's the story you need to be told. But you might be reaching out to Kathy to do another anthology in a different point, or your own solo book. And we've seen a lot of that happen where an author will participate in this and they will at first say, hey, I don't have a story, but then they realize that, hey, I have a lot that I could share and a lot that people could benefit from. And this is just the launching pad for whatever's next for you. So it's kind of cool because you can tiptoe into becoming a published author. But yeah, the whole purpose of this is being real, being genuine, and sharing the story that you want to bring to the world.
You have one author who has been in your anthology, decided to do her own book, and then she quit her day job and started her own company. And that kind of in that sequence, because with each little step you take, you gain that confidence and that resilience, and you realize you do have grit. And with reference to the trauma stories, I don't know if it's the season or just world events, but we've had several books lately where women have been ready to tell their stories. And we had one of our writing coaches happens to be a PhD in child development, and she was a writing coach for a book that was getting quite a few of these stories. And she said, Kathy, I really think we need to put a disclaimer in the front. And we came up with a little code, and it's a little daisy. And any of the stories within the book that may create a trauma reaction or we just put a little daisy beside the title so that if you're reading through the book and you are concerned that you might have a trauma reaction, then they can skip over that particular chapter and know that maybe they could come back to it at another time.
I mean, just for an example, you can even talk about why were you called to the military? What was pulling you to join? Or, just there's tons of different exercises we can do to help kind of get your wheels moving and figure out what's the story that's meant to be brought to the world. So, but all of these chapters are about 1,500 words in length. There's only 40 seats in these books. I don't want to put any less than that. And sometimes I've made accommodations with Kathy's approval to add a couple additional ones, but really my core is 40 women, incredible stories, hand-selected, making sure that they're authentic. They're not victims. They're choosing this journey, but they're able to have the strength to talk about it.
This is a chance to tell a heroine's journey, the hero's journey story, where we're walking along in life or running along in life. We trip on that bump in the road. We fall flat on our face. We somehow, through the help of friends, family, colleagues, get ourselves back up, dust ourselves off. And now this is where we are. And this is the lesson I learned and the space in my life that I feel so much better now. Not that I necessarily have to love what I bumped into and tripped over, but the lesson I've learned is that resilience, that grit, that tenacity, and how I grew from that. They're amazing stories. I get goosebumps when I read them.
At one point, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Vicky.
go ahead. Go ahead, Esmeralda.
One day, Jennifer and I were talking, and I asked the question, well, why 40? And she was telling me, well, that's a good number to work with, with the publishing company. And I said, it's really telling that 40 in the Bible is a 40 days of rain, you know, in Noah's Ark, it was raining, and then Jesus was in, or the Israelis were in, you know, in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And so 40 is a number of trial. 40 is a number, but not just of trial, it's also of success. And so Jesus was in the desert. He was taking, you know, in the desert for 40 days, and he was there, but he came out on the other side. So this 40 number for me was really impactful, because it's a number of adversity and yet also of success. So I would love to, you know, to see as many of our women veterans being part of this anthology. And maybe this was not something that you were planning for your future, but this is an opportunity that has come to you. And I hope you take this as a great opportunity, the way that I took it. And this doesn't mean that you're going to be now selling. No. And that's another thing that Jennifer and Kathy, if you can share what their responsibilities would be after they write this chapter. What do they need to do? Just because I do something doesn't mean that everybody's going to have to do what I'm doing, right?
Yeah. And I love that you shared that, because the first time you told me the significance of 40, it still gives me goosebumps, because I was the first anthology in all of the books that Kathy's published that has ever included 40 women in their anthologies. So that was just like, it was pretty cool. And it's still cool, because when I hear it, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track. I love that. In regards to what's asked of the authors, it's really custom. It's whatever you want to do with it and however often you want to utilize it. Like Rachel was talking about, she's been able to turn speaking engagements in what Esmeralda does. She goes to table and sells her books. There's other authors that just decided they just wanted to be in the story and they bought one book. There's others that have decided to buy 500 books and then they sell those, and you can buy the books at wholesale and then you can mark them up to whatever price that you want. So in regards to how I ask my authors to show up, it's dependent upon whatever works best for them. I'm never going to make you do anything that you don't want to do, and I'm never going to guide you down a path that's not meant for you. It's very much customizable based on whatever works for you. I am slowly trying to convert all of our stories into Audible, and that is still an option. Some authors have not chosen to participate in that, and I'll have to use AI, but it's another way, if it's something that's pulling on your heartstrings, to step into and pursue. But in regards to like how I lead, I'm a therapist, so it's up to the authors and what they want to do with the work.
Yeah, the opportunity definitely exists. And I always say it boils down to what I see as the 3 C's. You get that added boost of credibility just by adding international bestseller with your name and your signature on your emails. And when you go out and you're being introduced by somebody and they add international best-selling author, it gives you that credibility that you need to take that next level in your business or your life. I'm sorry, I'm actually, I'll be transparent here. My computer is on a ironing board in my bedroom. So, and I accidentally just hit it, and if you see me wobble, that's what's happened. So, and then, so we have credibility, and then we have that added confidence that comes just by going through this whole process. And then the 3rd C that I always talk about is gaining those extra connections, that community, and that it making new friends, you know, creating this new bouquet that's going to impact. And that, I think, is one of the big goosebumps for me, is the ripple effect of these books, because the reviews that you get, or we've had instances where authors, because everyone gets to have their bio and the QR code to a link tree, and we explain what all that is and how it works. And but people can reach out to you, and we've had authors receive stories and emails about how life-changing their stories have been. And that's one of the amazing things, is that somebody out there needs to hear your story, whatever your story of triumph, revival, and whatever you have overcome. By sharing that story, somebody else is going to say, wow, I'm not alone. I really needed to hear that. And it's a chance to, as I say, stand up, speak up, and lift up that next person.
Yeah, something I always say is we always heal every time we share a story. And if
Mhm.
you even look at my personal journey of publishing these books, I had this idea. I was in a mastermind with Kathy. I knew all the right people. I still didn't have the courage or the confidence to step in and own that journey. I invited a friend of mine to have her courage to help me take this to fruition. So we did the first book together, and then I challenged myself and started becoming more and more vulnerable to actually share my hardship. So it is very much real, but it's very much healing, and it's a therapeutic journey because you're able to do that self-reflection and see all of your strength and all of your power and step in to own all of who you are, which is just, it's, I don't know, it kind of sets you on fire and it helps you become more courageous and more confident. So,
I'd
it's
love,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'd love to hear of those that have been in it, what it's like to experience your very first Amazon bestseller book launch.
Amazing. Um, I'll go. I had a good year for 2023 for bucket list items, and one of them was to create a marketing conference. So the marketing conference launch was the day before the book launch. So it was crazy time for me. Our conference was at full capacity, and my brain was already functioning at full capacity. So, but I remember missing the call, and people were starting to put things out like 5 a.m. It's just really exciting. There's an easy template to follow, even if you're, maybe possibly disengaged from the launch, but there's an easy process to follow. It's very exciting. Jen and Kathy, and the other woman, I forgot her name.
Rebecca.
Rebecca, they give you the strategy session and they basically tell you what to do. So it's kind of foolproof. And as long, you follow the steps, but it was really exciting. It's sort of like running a race a little bit and you're not sure how you're going to finish. And so you're excited, and then your excitement goes out to other people who might not have bought the book. And so I was calling people all over the world that were my friends and encouraging and pushing. And it actually, the backside of that was I also reached out to people I hadn't talked to in a long time. So I was, reinvigorating my friendships, my network, and it was just a really happy time. And most of the time, people will support you. Um, it was a really exciting thing just to watch. Jen's really good about putting out, hey, we just made it to this level. Oh, we're in this country now. And it's just exciting. It was just a real whirlwind experience, which I've never experienced before. And it was just fun being around other women and encouraging each other during that time frame. So they make it very easy and fun. And obviously, 5 bestsellers internationally. So they crossed the finish line, which is exciting.
So the day that Tenacity was launched, prior to that, I started buying all sorts of leopard print, everything. So I got the shoes, I got a belt, I got a shirt. I mean, I've been a dress. Um, and many of my friends will know that when I do something, if I say I'm going to do something, I jump with both feet in. I don't just dabble. I like to do it full on and give it my all because that's how I am. But when I decided to join as not just Grit to the author, but Grit the community, I've had so much joy just listening to the women and how much this community has helped them. Again, not just the book, but the community itself. For me, the day that the book launched, it was fantastic. I had my computer ready to go. I purchased balloons. I had the whole thing because for one, this was my first book and I didn't know if I was going to write another one. I figured, why not go all out? And so I had balloons. Later I had a cake. And then for my birthday, I turned 51. Yes, 51, December 14th. I actually had a book signing and a book and my birthday. The location where I was going to have this event was only available December 14th. And I was like, well, that's my birthday. And the lady was like, why don't you have a dual celebration? And I was like, you know what? I wasn't planning on having anything for my birthday. So I did have a dual celebration. It was a big celebration. And we were able to actually have a couple more authors there. So as I was doing the book signing, they were signing the books as well. I had a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun. This has boosted my self-confidence, my image of myself so much. again, I did it for maybe a different reason, but now there's so many other things that have been added to myself, my character, who I am. And I never thought that I was gonna say Esmeralda Jaron, #1 international best-selling author. But that's now part of who I am as well. So it's really, really exciting to see. But not just that, the impact that the stories are making in people's lives. That's what hits me more, because people have come, even here at work, people will buy the book and then they'll come in and with tears in their eyes and, "Oh, I just want to give you a hug." I mean, I've had those kinds of situations. Now, every story will be different. My veteran story will probably be different. Maybe how I joined the military, why I joined, what was I going through when I joined the military, and what has happened since then. I don't know what I'm going to write about, but I just know that I'm going to be writing, and that my coach will be there to guide me. And that's another thing that I want to talk about, the coaching. I didn't think that I was a writer in the sense of writing a book. And yet, I'm going to be honest, in all transparency, I started at midnight, and by 2:15, 2:30, I sent it to the writing coach, the editor. At that time, I read it, reviewed it, and then I sent it in. And I was happy to get the feedback then a few weeks later. So does it have to be that difficult? No. You can make it as difficult as you want to make it difficult, but it's your story, and no one's really changing your story. It's whatever happened to you. And I think I've said enough, so I'll just stop there.
I think the writing part, it was a wonderful time for reflection. I feel as who I am as a servant leader, I'm always helping everyone else. I can help my kids to write their essays. I can help anyone else do anything else. But now this was about me. And that was the hardest part, was taking that time out. And I think I told Kathy I have like 4 books written, it seems like, because it was like this story. Okay, no, I'll save that one for a different time. And it took me a while. I'm a little jealous, Esmeralda, that it only took you like a few hours. But for me, it took me days of just writing and then put it aside, different topic. No, I'm not going that direction. I'm going this direction. But it was, it was honing that thought process and what I wanted to be intentional about how I was going to come forward in this book so that it would have a meaningful impact for me, but also others could see as a space of hope and inspiration. So it could be this wonderful journey. I would say this was a journey for me as a known writer and someone who helps other people. So that might take a minute for you to focus on yourself and really extract and get to know yourself and how you want to be seen moving forward. So that was a wonderful journey, and the coaches were amazing. It's an amazing process. So again, thanks, Jen.
You're welcome. And I think it's really cool, like when you can see the impact that you're directly making from your story and from being vulnerable, and then getting those testimonials and getting those reach outs. It's exciting, so it just shows you that there's something bigger than who we are and what we're meant to be on this world to give to others. And this is one of those intentional things that I wanted to create, to give hope to others that are struggling, to see that there's always options, or to see that they're not alone with whatever they've endured or overcome. So I
Well,
love it. So thank you for sharing.
Since we were talking about the writing coaches, one thing to remember, and I love, Jen, your background and your education ties right in with our mission, in that each of our writing coaches, they may have a journalism undergraduate degree, but all of them have advanced degrees in either social work or therapy, or we have one who's a PhD in child development. And we've even had some of the writers say that just made it so much easier for them to write, because they weren't being judged, they were being listened to, and just, reflecting back and helping them figure out what it is they want to write about and what is their story, and just letting it birth itself out of that author. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring up is totally off topic, not really, but a little bit more on the policy piece. Because I was, my husband was in the military for 20 years and we were in special operations spaces. And there's something called operational security. I do want to bring that up as people are writing. That should be a topic we kind of have a feeling, maybe Kathy, Jen, have an idea of how to put that, what is an OPSEC violation? And what are the lines within that? So that's the only thing that was coming to mind that might be difficult, is understanding like I wouldn't want this book to be scrutinized because of an operational security
Yeah.
violation. And so I don't know the policy behind it, the rules, the laws, or any of that, but I do think it's something that should be explored so we know how to guide the writers.
Well, and thank you for bringing that up, because our policy with any writing is no naming, no blaming, no shaming. And that's been drilled into each of our editors and our writing coaches. And if we don't mention other people unless we have their permission to do so. So part of our process is that we're trying to help guide people into taking ownership of their own feelings, not blaming someone else for it. And so we're constantly focusing. And if they are telling a story where it mentions a person, a place, or a thing, we stop and we back up and we ask them, do you have permission to tell the story from the people that you're talking about? And we request and require each of our authors to actually get that email and copy me and send it to that person to make sure we have permission. If not, and that has happened where we've had people say, oh yeah, sure. And then they read the chapter and go, no. Then we step back and we rewrite a little bit, and we change everything. If it was a male person, we make it female. If they lived in Arizona, we make it Massachusetts. We change everything about it so that no one, not even the person, and that's the goal, is that the person that they're really talking about will never know that they have been spoken about. And so it's very high on our priority list. We have had incidences where ex-husbands have threatened to sue if a spouse decides to write about that. So we're very aware, and it's a part of all the training that our editors go through. But you have added another element that we've not touched on yet. So
So it might be like operational security based on
Yeah.
missions and things. Like we were trained as Army spouses in the Ranger space. We had our own trainings, but things that we couldn't talk about at all, or even words we couldn't use. So
And that might be something offline that you and I could have a conversation about if you have any information about that, and we'll make sure that it gets to the writing coach.
okay. Awesome.
I've got a quick question. I do have to jump off here soon. So at first I want to say thank you so much, Jen, Esmeralda, Rachel. It's been a while to see you guys and to hear about how this project has changed your life, really, and the impact you've made on others. I still remember the first G.R.I.T community event that I attended, and I even feel like a different person since then. Seeing so many women in one room, in one like warehouse, it was unbelievable. And that really gave me hope as to what we're working on with Sisters in Service, bringing women veterans together and being able to see that and know like this is pretty amazing stuff. Once we get together and we can break those barriers down and we stick together, no one can stop us. So I'm very thankful for today's call. And I am wondering, when will we hear about the steps, the how? What's the cost? Are we waiting for 40 people? Do you have the 40 people? And just what are we seeing here in the near future?
That is the next step. I will be sending this video out in an email of all of the emails of people that have expressed interest. And then once I understand how many people we have, will then dictate pretty much the cost and if I can have sponsors help drive down that cost. But pretty much the next step is committing to this project. And then we would have you sign a legal document stating that you are going to be part of this anthology, and then sending the invoice to collect payment. And then our launch would be hopefully this November if we get all 40 authors in those seats by that time frame. Kathy always requests about a 5-month time period for our authors to put together, their stories and make sure that it's edited, and we have the copywriter, and just plenty of time for us to build community too within this anthology, because we host, we'll have our own group on Facebook with all of the authors. You can communicate in that vertical, but throughout that process, you'll actually get together virtually, kind of like what we're doing here. They learn about each other, share a little bit about our stories, and then once we all wrap up, another in-person book launch. But pretty much next step is I just need your commitment, and then I put you in that seat. And then once I have 40 women in this book, we can pretty much take flight. So if you know of any other women that would be interested, happy to share this video so we can recruit and make sure that we have 40 women who are committed to this process.
Wonderful. Before I jump off, can we take a quick picture? That'll help with the recruitment. So we could put it out there and say, hey, we had our first town hall, yada, yada, yada. You know the drill. It'll be okay. Everybody smile.
Oh, we got some new faces.
Good to see you, girl.
Awesome.
Well, cool. Thank you all for joining us today. I am going to send this out through an email. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email us or Rachel or Esmeralda or Kathy. Like, I just want everybody to feel really comfortable. And this process is very transparent. There's nothing that we are not sharing. I just want to be completely transparent. So,
Well,
I have a quick-
Lenore, I love that Sisters in Service line.
yeah.
We need to use that somewhere. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's going to be an ad in the back of the book, at least for sure.
Oh, yeah. That is a great idea. I would gift you an ad. Absolutely.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Cool.
Lenore, I think
And
the
the
last
back
time
of
I
the
saw
book-
you,
Yeah.
I think the
Was
last time I
at
saw,
the event, right?
yes, it was at the G.R.I.T event. It was the first,
We're
yeah,
like
I
one of
took
the
a
only ones
picture
we knew. Yeah.
and
And
we
as
put it on our social media. Yeah, so.
Well, and Esmeralda, how many tickets did I donate for veterans for the Grit Gala?
oh,
10 or
Maybe
7?
6 or 7.
6,
Yeah, 6
yeah.
or 7. Yeah.
So,
I can't
yeah,
remember
so-
how many. I was like, can we have more? Can we have more?
yeah. I was like, I'll
I'm
make it
willing
work.
to ask for everyone.
yeah, that was so generous of you because that was a very powerful event. Hearing the stories, oh man, it was so good.
Good.
Um,
But it's
I
all
have a
about,
question.
sure.
You probably can't see me. I don't know if you can hear me.
yes, we
I
can
have
hear.
technology. I have technology issues. So I'm Tracy. Esmeraldo asked me to come to this just this morning. I'm in a different time zone even.
Oh, wow.
But at any rate, so you were saying I'm in a very rural area. So I moved 2 inches and lost y'all earlier. No kidding. So the time frame is November. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. We're going to try to kick it off in November. Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
So hopefully we'll have
And
everybody
why-
locked in by May, and then we'll be like, okay, let's go. June, July, we got this going. So
So there's a cost associated, is my understanding, but I've heard of other people who've written chapters in books with no cost associated with the anthology. Is there a reason for that, or?
yeah, all of my authors actually own their words. So this is filed with the Library of Congress, and you'll actually get a legal document stating that you own your words. So you are then a published author, because otherwise you'd just be a contributor. So no, you will own your words, your story. All 207 of my authors own their story, their words, so they can utilize that content however they like.
And each author will receive a PDF of your chapter sandwiched between the front and back cover. And we talk about different ways you can use that and use it to generate relationships on your website. Is one of the ways that I see a lot of women do that.
Or it could be like the forward to your next book, because you've already written, the prefix or the forward to your
You can
real
turn it
story.
into your blog.
I've had them made for 10 years at least. I have a very unique life.
Well, thank you all for being here. I will send this out as a video, and then once we pretty much have 40 women that are committed to this process, then we can pretty much hit the ground running. So
Awesome. I enjoyed meeting everybody and seeing everybody again.
Quick question, Jennifer. Is that November 11th, like for Veterans Day? Is
that's
that
what we had talked
something
about.
appropriate?
That's
Okay.
yeah, that's what we had talked about.
I
Yeah.
just want to make sure everybody knew that.
Well, we usually do it we usually do it on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday,
Mhm.
the first day. So I was looking to see November 11th is actually, hold on, it's coming. That's a Monday.
Oh.
So Jen and I and Rebecca, our vendor, we'll talk about either doing it the week before or that Tuesday, the day after immediately.
Yeah, and what I was thinking is we could even launch it the week before, but then actually have like the book launch party on that day. So we're definitely gonna tie that date
Yeah,
in.
lots
for
to talk
another-
about here
Yeah.
still.
Yep, yeah,
Excellent, thank you.
yeah. Okay, and another reason why that's significant is because that's when the Great Gala was last year. And that's when the Tenacity book launched and all of them. So yeah, so I was trying to go with November, but okay, well, cool. Well, thank you all for your time. Rachel, thank you for contributing. Esmeralda, thank you for contributing. Kathy, you're always amazing. So I hope that this has brought in more light in regards to what this project could look like, and it helps you decide if this is something you want to move forward with. So cool.
Great.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Jen.
Appreciate you
Thanks, guys.
Great to see everyone.
Great to see you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.